Welcome everyone. Welcome to Mini Only Mono. We have 24 clubs taking part instead of the usual 42 to 48. Thank you for Port Camera Club who are hosting the battle for us. Without them hosting it, we couldn't go ahead. We got over 20 clubs taking part, 24, and then I had to go and get a judge. Now, the PAGB didn't have a list of Zoom judges, so I went onto the UK Club Photography page and asked for a judge, and it was like fastest finger first. Kylie Ann Martin was the first one, and she is EFIAP BPE2 LDPS, so she is well experienced for today's battle. Although she is a new judge, she started Camera Club life in 2007 and has many distinctions with her. So onwards and upwards, and I'd like to introduce, or at the end of the battle, we've got Peter Young in attendance today as the WPF president, and he has CPAGB, LRPS, AFIAP, APAGB. So, Kylie?
Yep.
You're on.
I'm on. Way. Right. Thank you for allowing me to come and judge this today. It's been an honour. I've had the images for a little while to look at, and judging today is going to be a bit harsh because the standard is so high. So apologies if I have to get a bit nitpicky with some images, but it is kind of in order to get that separation there that is needed. But thank you to all those who submitted, and it's been a pleasure looking at your work. So can we have the first image up? Okay, this one's called Cornish Tin Miner. I really like the mono conversion on this. It's got good detail throughout. The information and detail in that beard is fantastic, and the eyes just get you. They are the first thing you go and look at. So that's been very, very well done. I love his wrinkles around his eyes and this sort of lived-in face. There's a couple of issues that are just really, really nitpicky for me, and that's the couple of strands of hair that are just sticking out over the left-hand side onto his like overall. You've got a little intrusive, almost sort of like cloning issue gone on down the left-hand side slightly, and then you've got a couple of highlights on I presume it's a tin hat or something on the right. But overall, really good position in the frame. I like the vignette, nice use of catch lights, and I'd kind of like to see a bit more of his environment if possible. So that one today is going to score 17, please. Okay, this one's called Zebra Dance. I kind of not entirely convinced that the people are there. I think it might be a bit of a composite. I'm really sorry if it's not. Either way, it's been very cleverly done, and I like the positioning. There's total separation between all those people, beautiful reflections in the water, and although they are standing apart, there's this kind of interaction between them. The mist works lovely on the buildings, and you've even got the little zebra head poking through. I think because it's called Zebra Dance, I almost don't need that little zebra head, or if he does, I'm almost tempted to kind of put the whole zebra into the middle of this dance, like they're kind of honouring the zebra, and just sort of make him a bit more of a focal point. Yeah, I think there's a few stronger images, so I'm going to give that one 17, please. Okay, this one's called I've Got My Eyes on You. Anybody who knows my sort of photography or has seen it on the internet or all that knows I really, really love my spirals and my dross work. So with this one, I'm assuming that the image has been taken and then sort of flipped and merged together. And the idea works really well, but to me, I'm actually not seeing eyes. I'm kind of sort of seeing, you know, a really elaborate piece of sort of bodice clothing or something. It's kind of, I would almost prefer to see it without that second half and just see it in that single image in its own right, and the detail and concentration on that. I think it would probably be a stronger image for me. So today that one's going to be a 15, please. Right, this is called Return of the Kite. The detail in this is beautiful all the way through. The detail in the trees in the foreground and the bracken, all the way through into the mist is beautiful. You've got the birdies pin sharp, and lovely separation in the wings and the feather tips and that tail coming down. For me, I'd probably kind of like to see a little bit more of the white off the top of that image, purely because it's so white and it's so distracting. And you're kind of focusing on the bird, and then the white is just pulling you up and out of the image, where you want to be looking at the bottom of the image and the bird. So it's just unfortunate that I just, as it's presented, I think it just doesn't quite pull off today. So I'm going to give that one 15, please. Sorry, 16. Lost my place. Right, this one's called Pip. He's a very well-known male model on the circuit. Personally, I haven't photographed him, but I really, really want to. The detail and texture in this image is beautiful. You've got every bit of information in that beard and moustache. The detail in the hat is there. The kind of I don't know what they're called. The sleeveless jumper, tank top type thing. The collar's been well handled and is not intrusive at all. I'm guessing it's probably been white and really well toned down. The eyes just have you. There's I know the guy's got tattoos from what I've seen previously. There's a little bit of that creaking out on the wrist, and it doesn't bother me. It really doesn't. I'm not a judge that kind of penalises photos for tattoos or says get them out. It's a bit awkward when I've got tattoos myself. The only little kind of critique I would have on this image is that I would like to see a little bit more space to that left elbow. It's so close to the edge of the frame, and I just think if you just had a little bit more space there. But it's not something I'm going to penalise it for. And there's just a couple of highlight areas on his cheek that I would just look at, and then there's quite a light patch on the palm of his hand. But none of those are enough to knock the points off in my eye for this image. So Pip is going to get 20. It is a fantastic image. Okay, this one's called Jake. Jake's kind of got this street life look about him. And I don't know if it's been deliberately set up or if it is, you know, somebody's gone out and done a bit of street photography. If you have, that's great. I like the pose and position that he's in the frame. And I like that the eyes are bright. The kind of, because he's got such dark brown irises and then black pupils, it's a little bit difficult to see the separation within the eye there. So maybe it would be an idea just to revisit the image and just lighten up the brown that is going to be sat there. Lovely detail in his beard and his hair. I'm not 100% sure what's been going on in the background though. There's been some either very heavy cloning happened, and something on the left just doesn't quite look right. There's a halo around his hood. So when you are doing your backgrounds and you're sorting your images out, just watch for these halos. Also, the kind of the inside of the tunic, the inside of his rain hood is very blacked up. There's no detail in those blacks that are coming through. So Jake gets 16, please. Now this one's Alex. Now, Alex is a little cutie. He really is. Gorgeous position. I mean, I've never done baby photography, but I could completely understand how hard it is to get these children to sit still and get images this quality. His expression and just the look in his eye at the photographer is almost like, what are you doing? For me, there's possibly a little bit too much white at the bottom of the image. It kind of draws your eye down, which is a shame. A lot of judges probably don't generally like framing on images to this extent, but I'm quite happy with it. I like it. It suits the image. I love the little catch lights in his eyes. They're gorgeous, and his hand positions and his little chunkiness. So for him, he's getting a 19, please. Right, being a Brummie, this is going to be a very interesting pronunciation of the title of this. It's called A Misty Drizzling. Am I right there? Yep. Okay, so for me, great use of the perimeter border there, just to kind of separate away from the black background. So nice use. It's kind of got a little bit of a Wuthering Heights feel for me, and I think it really is a lovely scene. I like the leading line from almost the bottom left corner, taking you through up that hill towards that tree in that beautiful mist. The detail in the bush on the left, and even in the rock in the middle, you can see this detail. The only thing that I would maybe look at kind of addressing in this is the white strands of grass at the base of the picture. I would just probably take out a couple of those really long ones that just intrude up into that sort of leading line. But otherwise, yeah, it's a beautiful scene. So that one's getting 18, please. Right, this one's called Lockdown Exchange. I'm kind of quite impressed with the fact that the white building in the background has been well handled. The detail in the brickwork is there. I'm not 100% sure what the shadow is. Maybe it's kind of a shadow of a tree, sort of in front or behind the hand. I'm not completely getting what the image is telling me. I'm seeing there's a guy pointing up at the flats up there, and this young girl in the very bottom left corner. Maybe he's telling her that, you know, you shouldn't be out, you should be at home in those flats up there. I'm not entirely sure. So I'm struggling with this one a little bit, because, you know, although the whites have been well handled, ultimately it is kind of a picture of a wall, you know, very well detailed wall, but I'm not quite following the message that the photographer is trying to present to me with this one. So that one's 14, please. Right, this one's called Airman. It really is a lovely image, taken at obviously a reenactment event somewhere around the country. The detail in his eyes and hair and his uniform are really nice. I'd like to see maybe a little bit more of that left arm just disappearing out the frame a little bit too quick, I think. But you know, the photographer may have had information in that left-hand side that they might not have wanted me to see, which is fine. The crop itself isn't sort of penalising enough, but it is just a tip. If the information's there, maybe try and get it in. But yeah, it's a nice vignette on it, putting your attention to his face. The collar's been well handled. It's nicely toned down and not distracting. The blacks have got detail, and yeah, it's a very pleasing image. So that one I think was slightly stronger, but he's going to get a 17 from me today. Okay, this one's called Hello, Can You Hear Me? Threes always work well in images, and it's nice that you've got the 3 photos and the 2 people. I like the kind of detail in the wall. I mean, it is over processed, but for the wall, for the detail, it works. I'm not too bothered about their poses, but it would have been nice maybe if one of them was kind of half turned and maybe trying to look at you, or wasn't so engrossed in looking at the buttons almost on the phone. Yeah, there's a couple of distracting bits on it. There's a white patch of the black wall to the left of the gentleman in the middle, and then there's I think it's a lightning, yeah, the lightning bolt to the right of the woman. It's personal preference from the author. Personally, I would probably take them out, but you've presented it as is, and yeah, 15, I think, please. Right, this one's called Art Deco Dancer. It's a nice, unusual pose. She's on point, and then you can see that real angle of her and that curve in her spine and her head fully back. She's holding, it looks like just a kind of metal ball. I wasn't too sure. I had to really try and zoom into this to see whether it was actually a globe or not. And I'm sure it is just a metal ball. So if I am wrong, I apologise. But that's what it kind of looks like. The whites on the back of the tutu unfortunately come up as being very sort of burnt out. There's no detail coming through in those at all, which is a shame. And I had a bit of a look. I did a bit of research on this Art Deco flooring, and yeah, you know, it's kind of imitation sort of the period. But for me, I just find it detracts too much. Your eye is just looking at that flooring, which is a shame. So it's got a couple of issues going on for it, but I really like that pose and I like the process of holding that ball up. So maybe go and have another look at the flooring on that. So that today's 15, please. Right, this one's called My Wrists Have Gone. I'm assuming that was him when he was young in the background, or an attempt to make you think that he is. I love the character in this image. The processing on it is harsh, and very grainy and gritty and grungy, but it works. His expression is just great. It's so well done. I really struggle to fault it. There is one there is one fault on it that is a shame, and I find the strands of his hair above his headband are completely burnt out. There is nothing in those at all, those grey bits. So it would have been nice maybe if they would have been toned down. But the eyes are beautiful and bright, and you are carried towards them to look at his expression. Almost what comes in the hands a sort of a secondary thing. But yeah, the vignetting to put your eye where the authors wanted you to have it, it's just great. But even forgiving the hair, he's got 20 easy. It's a cracking image. Love it. Okay, this one's called Moment for Message Time. I like the leading lines from the right-hand side with benches, and those elements of shadow on the wall, the little bit of wall behind. And I really actually quite like the isolated solo leaf in the bottom left corner there. The shadows are nice from the legs and sort of create a pattern with the brickwork as well. The whites are well handled of the shop fronts. I presume they're shops behind him. I wouldn't have really got that potentially it was message time. He could have been sort of looking at anything in his hand. So it's only the title that tells me it's a mobile phone that he's looking at. He's very engrossed in what he's doing and not bothered by the photographer standing there at all. I think the stronger images, unfortunately. So that one's going to get a 15, please. Right, this one's called The Power and the Glory. Now, I generally sort of avoid transport photography, just personal preference. And my partner works with trains, so but I really like this image a lot. I like the tones, the blacks through to the highlights. It works lovely, and there's detail in every area of this photo. I like the leading line from I got no idea what they're called, but this kind of joints in the bottom left corner going through. My partner will know all the technical terms for it, I'm sure. But yeah, it's really nice. And then the centre of the wheels are all in perfect line. The only criticism that I would have about it is the arm that is in the bottom left corner. I would really like to have seen the whole of that circle, as opposed to it being cut off at the bottom. But I mean, it really is only a small gripe about the image. So I'm going to give that 19, please. Right, this one's called Determination, and she certainly looks determined in that face. It's been very well caught, and I like the position that you're in taking this image. I don't quite know what she's actually up to, whether she's doing a gymnastics dance or whether she's doing a run, jump and flip off a springboard or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, it's the movement is caught really, really well. Her face is beautifully sharp, and her shoulder, but you know, it's kind of lacking in a few other ways. The whites of the shoes are very dominant and pull you to the centre of the image after you've looked at her face, and it kind of holds you there. And although we love leading lines in images, unfortunately, the leading lines that you've got at the bottom are leading you into this sort of lovely diffused audience, but there's a lot of white going on in that audience as well. So you've kind of got two areas of this image, or if you include the leading lines, three areas of this image competing to hold your attention and pull you away from this little girl's face, which is a shame. So for determination, that's going to get a 15, please. Right, this is called Gant's Hill. I love the symmetry of this and the simplicity. The detail in it is brilliant. I'm assuming somebody's HDR'd this. It's the light reflections in the floor. Yeah, it's a very pleasing image. For me, maybe one person just hovering around somewhere in that image would have given you a sense of scale. As it is in its own right, it is a lovely image, but as I say, I think, you know, if there was somebody in it, yeah, just to give a bit of scale, I think. There's a couple of issues that I can spot with it, and you know, normally we don't like to have bright lights or highlights on the edges of the images. So just watch out, you've got a couple of bright lights on the left, and just move my thing, yeah, and you've got it on the right as well. And then also you've got a light reflection in the middle of the image on the ceiling there, which again is just sort of pulling your eye around a little bit. So yeah, it's just watch out for those. But it's a beautiful image, so I'm going to give that 18, please. Okay, this one's called Bleak Road, and it is really bleak. That is going to be really cold, wet, and potentially windy stood there, so I don't envy the photographer that day. I really like the leading lines. Presumably, this is sort of a slate wall coming in off the side of this pathway. I love the details in the grasses, the path kind of leading you through to this tree and this derelict building, or say derelict, it's barely a building, it's a few stones, isn't it? Kind of looking like a building. But yeah, there's even you've got detail and reflection in the water there from the tree. You can see virtually every single pebble in that path is just beautifully detailed. And the treatment of the image works well. It suits the image. The nice use of the vignette as well. I would personally, probably on the left-hand side, you've got some highlights that are very, very close to that border. I would probably just clean the grass up and just remove those a little bit, just to keep your eye where you want the eye to stay. But yeah, I'm going to give it a 17, please. A cold, hard stare. It reminds me of the Paddington stare. The image itself, I think, because it's been a tight crop, it's lost. Although it's detailed, it's kind of lost a little bit of that sort of sharpness. It's kind of a little bit grainy. Whether you've intended that to be like that, you know, that's up to the author. I like the crop. It works very well. You know, the point of the title is the cold, hard stare, and yet you've got his eyes where you want the eyes to be. The skin, there's lots of detail in it, including all the pores on the nose and the wrinkles, and and everything. I like the idea. For me, the eyes are just lacking in, they just needed this little bit more. That right eye is quite dark compared to the left eye. But what I have more of a concern about is the clip from the rim of the hat that's clipping the sort of netting onto the top of the hat just above this left eye. It's so bright that it's kind of, your triangle really should be the two eyes and the nose, and you should be focusing more in that area, whereas the triangle that your eyes are being pulled to are the two eyes, and then this kind of bright metal clip. So personally, I would like to see that toned down by quite a long way. So today that's going to 16, please. Okay, this one's called Deep Soul, and yeah, when this came up, I know a photographer who does very similar work, and it held my eye very, very well. It's such a bold image in its own right. The vignette brought round just to the edge of this face, and that's where you want to look. You're obviously wanting us to look at the eyes, the windows to the soul, to know what maybe this gorilla's life is like. You know, if he's in captivity, you know, there looks an element of sadness there. The catch lights are lovely. The detail in the fur, the wrinkles around his eyes. Yeah, it's a nice position in the frame. The only complaint I would have about it is the highlight on the nose above the lip. I would just like it toned down, but only by just a fraction. It's literally, it's just pulling your eye to the nose, whereas you want the point you want to be on those eyes more. But I think it's a very well done image, very, very well processed, and handled. The environment. Okay, welcome back, guys. I understand that you'd seen the scores and comments for image number 20, Deep Soul, but we've missed Seville Balconies. So this is Seville Balconies, so welcome back. Right, we haven't got many architecture shots in this competition, so it's lovely to see an architecture shot. It's been very, very well spotted. I like the lines, curves, and the patterns that this image generates. It's got a really nice little frame on it, which some judges may or may not notice, but I try and look at fine details as well. And it's a really nice frame because it's picking up the black inlay and then a white outer border. So you're picking up the colours, obviously, within the image and enhancing that. There's a couple of little niggly points that I have with it, and they're only small, but it's just, you've got a really nice black dark corner in the bottom left. You've got a toned down corner in the bottom, in the top right, and I don't mind the top left corner being bright because you're looking up. But when it comes to this bottom right corner, you've got quite a light corner, and it does tend to sort of pull your eye down towards it. So I would maybe go back and have another look at that and either darken it down and increase the vignette just in that area, or look at maybe cloning it out and making it match this sort of baseline going across the bottom. The other little tiny gripe I have would be, I assume it's the ceiling, these very thin black lines in the top left. I think the image would just look a little bit tidier if they maybe weren't there. again, it's kind of author's opinion and your work. So it's entirely up to you. It's what you prefer your image to look like. So for today, that's got a 16, please.
Kylie,
Yeah.
I've just had a message from the audience, and they didn't hear the score to image number 20.
Okay. Deep Soul got 20, the gorilla.
And 21 was 16.
Yep, image 21, this one is 16.
Okay.
Okay, this one is called Approaching Hailstorm. You get a real sense of you've got trouble coming if you're out walking with this image. The detail in this crop down the left and right hand side is gorgeous. I like the path leading you in, although it's kind of not leading you in from sort of left or right. It's kind of on this third, taking you into that hailstorm. I love the S curve that this kind of hailstorm is coming down in, and that's been captured very, very well. I kind of almost wonder, I know you've kind of got the cloud detail and this sort of light patch coming through on the left, but I almost kind of wonder whether the image would benefit from almost like a portrait crop, so that you are concentrating on that road, then becomes the middle, and it guiding you through towards that lovely S shape that is coming down. It's author's choice. I mean, I do really like the leading line of the crop from the very left, and as I say, it does have beautiful detail. But maybe experiment with a crop on that. I think just for the fact that it's been so well handled, and there's no real burnt out areas, not even in the crop as it's sort of going off into the distance there. I'm going to give that 17, please. Okay, this one's Harbour Steps. Now, for me, I just kind of find this a bit of like an image rule breaker, you know, and just in the sense that you've got this bright white and then this very, very dark, but it works beautifully. Even though you've got a little bit of burnout white on that rail, you know, 2/3 the way up, for me, it doesn't matter. It kind of is that curve is beautiful going up that tower, and you get a sense of the shape of the building. I like that the like the mortar in between the stones is lighter as well, so it gives you this sort of effect, and you can see all the layers. Yeah, you really need that key line around it, and I think if you hadn't have put that on, that image would just be lost to the background. I really don't have any kind of complaints about this image, but I just feel that there are stronger ones in. I'm going to give it 17, but I really like the unusualness of the image. Gareth, you turned your mic off. Did you want to say something? No, okay, obviously not. Okay, this one's called Leaving Guard. Yeah, it's a nice kind of period image. I have memories of getting on these trains as a kid with like the turning handle and very wide gap between the steps and the platform. And unfortunately, I do have a memory of my mum falling down in between that gap at one point when I was a kid and coming up very, very battered and bruised. I'm not too keen on the big sort of empty black space on the left. I would have liked to have seen that brought in a little bit, maybe even just in line with the tip of the roof, and make that the very sort of top left corner. The guard is kind of what the image is about. So I just find it a shame that there's quite a lot. Obviously, it's the platform and you can't do a lot about it. But I just sort of find that you've got this sort of big empty space. And the smoke works really well. You can just about see the station building there, and you can see the guard. He's shutting the door. I don't know. I would just like a little bit more information, kind of in that big expanse of empty platform. Yeah, it's a nice atmospheric shot, but I'm going to give that 15, please. Right, this image is called Eastbourne Pier. For me, I love the image. It is so detailed, and it tells me a lot about what is going on in that scene. I love the slow shutter speed that you've done on the water, the leading lines of I think they're called groins, aren't they? Going down into the sea there. I like the layers. So you've got to see the groins, the sea, the pier, sort of foundations, line of the pier, and then the building on top, and then sort of this sort of dome at the top. The layers work incredibly well. Unfortunately, with the treatment it's had, which I assume is HDR effect on it, it's just kind of gone a little bit over the top in the sky for me, and unfortunately just made that sky so grainy that once your eye discovers the grain in the sky, you're then starting to pick up the grain when you look back over the rest of the image. So I would kind of, if it was me, I'd go back into Photoshop and kind of try and bring the amount of grain back down in that sky, and just get it looking a little bit more gentle. I'm going to give that 17, please. Right, this image is called Defeated, and he certainly looks like he's had a bad day. I like the fact, I like the composite. It works well. He's got a good position in the image, and I like the sort of water, almost like watercolored out background of the military action going on, the flag bearer. You know, it's not faded out too much so that you can't see detail. The information is there, and it helps you understand what this scenario is. The guy himself, he's got some really good detail going through him. The eyes are lovely and have been very well done. I just find he's got sort of a highlight on the tip of the rim of his hat, and I don't mind so much on the crown of the hat because obviously you've got the lights and the dimples there, but just find that the light on the rim of the hat, because it's at eye level, just a little bit competitive with the eyes. I would also, the white vest that he's got the V in his neck, I would just tone that down slightly. Yeah, it's a really well done shot. I'm going to give that 19, please. Right, this image is called In Union. Yeah, I don't do a lot of sport photography, but I can appreciate sport photography, even though I don't generally do it. I like the muscle tone in this, the detail that you've got, the shading and the light. so that you can really see those muscles in those arms. And at times the size of the hands as well are huge. The image is about solidarity, and presumably they're preparing for a game or having a timeout or something going on there. Detail in the uniforms are lovely, the creases, even you've got it looks like a rugby player character in the bottom of some of the t-shirts there. The only kind of thing that worries me a little bit about the image is the people on either end appear to be a little bit distorted. And I know it's possibly a lens issue, but it almost looks sort of like they've been compressed and then stretched up. It's just slightly strange to the eye. So that image, I'm going to give 15, please. Right, just bear with me. So I'm trying to wrestle the cat who's just appeared on my lap as well. Right, this image is called Subway. Like with the Pia image, I'm almost wondering if it's the same author, because the treatment is very, very similar. I really like the layers in this shot, the position of the staircases, that solo figure going up the stairs is really nice. I know light can burn out, but they are kind of excessively burnt out. I just would like to see those somehow, just a little bit of recovery on them, I think. I like the rail going across the bottom. It's kind of protecting the photographer and the viewer from, the dangers of the track beneath. I like the people on the platform. They're well spaced out, and the train itself is in a perfect position. For me, it's the same as the Pia. Really, it's just a little bit for me too over processed and grainy. I think if it was dialed back a bit, I think you'd have a stronger image. But yeah, I'm going to give that 16, please. Okay, this one is called Iranian Icon, and it's a beautiful piece of architecture. It really is. And it's got almost a sort of infrared feel about it. I'm hoping I'm right on that. I do infrared, but not a great deal. If it's not, it's a beautiful, beautiful mono conversion. There's so much detail in that. I presume it's concrete, but yeah, the position of it is good. I like there's so many leading lines in it in itself. It really is a nice image. There's a couple of little nitpicky things. I don't know quite what is on the front tip corners of the top there. I would personally take those out once you've seen them. You're kind of wondering what they are, and it pulls you quite considerably. But then also at the base of the image, you've got this sort of very dark triangle creeping out into what is lighter stone. So I would personally just sort of clone that out and match it up with the rest of the concrete or structure on that level. So for that, that's an 18, please. Okay, this image is called Dramatic Sky over the Giftly. Go on, help me, Gareth. What's it called? Okay, it doesn't make me feel too bad.
Yeah, you over? Aye.
Right, okay. However it's said, it's got gorgeous lighting. The rays coming through those clouds there are lovely. And being sort of in the middle of Birmingham city centre, or just to the north of it, we kind of don't get scenes like this round here. You know, we occasionally get sort of the rays if we go out into the countryside, but you know, scenes like this are very far from my reach. Yeah, so there's good lighting. The water level, you know, there's no rookie error there with the horizon not being straight and the water leaking out of one side. It is level, so that's a good start. Yeah, there's a vignette on the image, obviously, to sort of pull your eye into the centre, and you've got, you know, the light hitting the water in the right places. I would maybe just sort of darken this bottom centre edge down a little bit more, because you've got the rays coming down, lightening it up behind, but then compared to the corners, this bit is quite light here at the bottom edge. So I would maybe just darken that down so your focus is more on the rays in the patches where it's lit up in that sea. So yeah, it's a very pleasing image. I'm going to give that 17, please. Okay, this one's called Apache. I used to work for Ministry of Defence, and I loved seeing the aircraft coming in and out of the RAF base. And this has been very, very well caught. The detail in this Apache is fantastic. Even like underneath the body of it, there is still detail in all those dark shadow areas. So much so that you can kind of even see the weapon barrel and the holes where the ammunition's going to sit. The rotors have been very well caught as well. You know, you can see they're not frozen in time as like single blades. That, you know, they've got that sense of movement going on around them. And the windows, you know, they're not really blown out particularly. They've got detail in them. So yeah, it's a very well done image. The position's great in the frame. I want to give it 19, but it is a very well done image, and I'm rather partial to military aircraft. Right, this image is called Old Age Wisdom. The face, the character that this guy I would expect would have, he's very well caught in his face. He's lines in the skin. You know, you appreciate the years he's got on him. The eyes, I find the right eye. There's something not quite right in the processing with it. I think it's been lifted a little too much, because where the hand position is, the hand has cast quite a dark shadow on the face. So I'm wondering if that's maybe actually been over that eye as well. And somebody's tried to work on that eye and bring that information back. And I think just the iris of it has just been a little bit brought back too much. When you do photos like these, you know, just watch the hand positions or things like that for these shadows. He's got a very sunken area on both cheeks, and where that shadow forms on the right hand side as we're looking at it almost looks sort of like a hole in his cheek. just needs to have some detail brought back in that. But you know, it is a really nice image. I kind of, the title of it, Old Age Wisdom. Personally, I would prefer the finger not touching the hat, but touching the side of his head. The wisdom's not in the hat, the wisdom's in the head. So I just think, you know, as a phrase, you kind of want that hand just, you know, pointing in the right place. I like the position in the frame. I like it, you know, the sort of the empty space to the left is quite a trendy thing at the moment. But I'm just kind of wondering as well what's kind of happened to his right arm. So yeah, I think it's kind of, you know, a really nice portrait study, but you know, there's just a few things that could be done to make it, you know, up there. So for me, that's got a 16, please. Right, this one is called Athabasca. I've got that right. It really is a lovely landscape. You know, the snow peaks. I mean, it almost looks like it could be a ski resort somewhere. I like the leading line of the road, or I assume it's a road, going from this sort of bottom left curving round, taking you across the image, and then right up into the hills up there. There's lovely detail in all the foreground and the trees. I guess there's maybe been sort of, you know, it's a shadowy, cloudy with light patches day, and maybe there's kind of been a shadow cast over those trees on that kind of second layer. And it looks like it's been brought back, and it's been brought back enough if that's the case. There is plenty of detail there. It kind of is let down by the fact that the whites of that snow just haven't really been handled as well as they could have been. The white is very burnt out white. There's nothing, no information in that at all. And there's another image that you'll see later on, and you'll understand when I say and criticise this for being so burnt out, what I mean when we see this other image later on. There are stronger images, so for me this one is on 16, please. Okay, this is called In Reflective Thought. It's a really good detailed image. You can see every sort of speck of poor hair that's on this lady's face. I get the impression sort of that the left-hand lens of her eye has been a bit darker, and there's been a little bit of work on that to lighten it up, and it's worked quite well. I mean, even the pearl earrings have got, you know, even though they've got sort of catchlight on them, they've got detail. The left-hand shoulder's been handled well, where it's in that shadow. And the background, obviously, kind of not always pleasant, sort of being sat on sort of period train, but it's been handled nicely. I like the reflection in the glass. It is sort of barely there, but it's there enough that you can kind of see that it is sort of something going on that right hand side to fill that space. I think if I was being really, really pernickety about the image, you've got the wooden frame of the glass just above her her right shoulder as we're looking at her. You've got the grain of wood, and it's just kind of a dark area just intruding on the light area in sort of two places, just above the shoulder and then just before the top of the frame. And I would maybe sort of clone that straight line down just to sort of get away from that kind of disruption in line. The two sort of black dots that it peaks into just sort of do draw the eye a little bit. But yes, that's just, you know, it's a high standard competition and that is just being picky. But even so, this image gets 20, please. Well, I'm just going to take a drink of water. Hang on for me. Right, this image is called It's Nice to Talk. And when this came up, it just made me laugh. You could, you know, see this looks like my mum and dad at the kitchen table on a weekday morning, you know. But the difference is they're with mobile phones. You know, mum sat there on hers scrolling Flipboard and looking at the news, and dad's on his scrolling Facebook because he's new to Facebook and he believes everything on it and absolutely loves it. So it's kind of how, you know, just a nice example of how sort of times are changing when you look at this scene and compare it to what I see with my family. I assume it's kind of a holiday snap that somebody's just spotted and thought the same, that it's this really sweet old couple. And yeah, it's a lovely, pleasing image. The whites have been handled reasonably well. They've all got detail in them. Her cup's a little bit blown out, and napkins on the napkin holders on the right edge, I would just tone those down because they're so close to the edge that they're kind of quite distracting. But yeah, it's just minor issues. But for that, there are stronger images, but I'm going to give it 17. It's well seen. Okay, this one is called In the Moss. I would be if I'd taken this, I would be very pleased with this image. The detail is beautiful. He's in a lovely position, you know, catching the light from the windows just across his legs. It's a shame that the book he's reading, I'm assuming maybe it's Quran, I'm not sure. But you know, it's the pages are completely burnt out because that light is hitting it. I would just like to see that controlled a little bit better. I would also kind of crop this left-hand edge off a little bit because it's not really adding any information to the image, but that's just personal taste. When you actually kind of go and look in the window, the light coming through the window itself has been well handled. You know, that the windows aren't particularly blown. There's just one slight area. I'd love to know what is happening or being shown in that bottom left window pane, because it almost looks like a little ghost appearing and entertaining us, or trying to spy on him, or yeah, I'm not sure what that is, but if it wasn't there when you took the shot, it could be interesting. Yeah, he's got a great look of concentration. He's totally engrossed in what he's doing, and it's, you know, it's giving us a nice story into, you know, his life in his mosque visit. I'm going to give that 18, please. Right, this one's called Race for Life. As everyone knows, these take place around the country in aid of cancer charities, and they're really a great thing. Sorry about that, my cat has just decided to jump a load of surfaces and tip a load of stuff everywhere. Yeah, it's a great fun shot. I mean, she looks like she's had a really horrible time doing this sort of like mud run, I suppose what it is. But the happiness on her face, the whiteness of those teeth and eyes against the mud in the rest of her, I am not going to envy her washing machine when she gets back. Yeah, it's a good fun shot. What lets it down is, it's a crowded environment, so there's not a lot you can do about it. But it's this girl in the foreground. She's got a hand up in front of her face, and with it being in the corner, it's kind of it pulls your eye down to it, and you lose looking at the character that you're trying to show us. And you've tried to do that by sort of putting this vignette round and trying to focus us on the face. But for me, it just hasn't quite worked in what I think your intention is. So I'm going to give that 16, please. Right, this one's called Cowling 025. I'm not too sure. I've sat and looked at this shot a few times, and I'm not exactly entirely sure what the age of this image is. I don't think it's at a kind of place like Blisshill or anywhere like that that's kind of, a frozen in time museum place. I'm looking at the registration on the vehicle, and it's 1966. It's 55 years old. So I'm almost wondering if this is kind of a very, very old photo that somebody has pulled out and scanned in and digitized, and it's a big project that I've got to do myself. So well done. The detail in it is great. What lets it down for me is the grain. I know it's probably going to be on the film if that's what you've done, or you may have processed it in to look like it's an industry location and smog and all of that and the atmosphere. It kind of works, but I just find it this sort of top half above. I assume it's like a gas dome in the middle, but I just find that top half or top quarter of the image quite distracting because it is so grainy. But I like the foreground and the beauty on the cobbles and the wet cobbles. I'm going to give that 15. Right, this image is called Castle Combe 1. It's a beautiful village image. The detail is just exquisite all the way through. I like the leading line of the road curving just round on that left side. People walking up, they've been very, very well positioned. And then the leading line of the bridge looping up to there and bringing you back out of the image on the right. But no problem with that at all. The detail in the brickwork all the way through is lovely. And I really like the tree line behind it. When you are processing your images, just watch out for trees, because in the top left corner you've got this tree sort of poking in, but it's kind of got this sort of haloing round the branches that mono conversions sometimes can create. So yeah, just be careful. It's up in that corner, so it doesn't distract too much from the rest of the image. I guess the only thing that I would really sort of try and remove or tone down is this white cloud just to the right off centre. It almost looks like it's coming out the chimney, but we know it isn't. But it's just quite white and dominant, and it's almost to the centre of the image. So I would either try and clone that out or tone it down. But you know, it's what you've presented today. It is a good image. There are stronger, so I'm gonna give it 18, please. Right, this one is Go Away, no makeup on. She does not look happy about having a picture taken, bless her. I kind of like the expression. The hand has been positioned very well. We know that, you know, with photography, hands can be quite ugly. But because this has been caught on side, it's given quite a thin profile. I would just maybe tone the highlights down on the edge. They could go down a little bit more than where they're at. The eye detail works quite well. You know, you've got nice catch light, just the one in each eye. Plenty of detail in the hair. The background's fine. There's no distraction in that. I just find her jumper is very black and it's quite blocked up. There's other than the wrist, there's not really any detail sort of to the left hand side or to the bottom corner of the image. I know that when we make crops to the images, especially with people, you need to kind of make the crop look as if it's intentional. So I can't quite decide whether the photo's been taken and by accident, because it's such a thin sliver of her head or hair missing, whether that's just been a photography error on your part at the time, or whether you've intentionally done this sort of lovely square format that suits the image, and you've deliberately taken just that tiny piece off. I think, you know, it's just worth noting that, I mean, try it if you like it, great. If you don't, then that's fine as well. But I would try taking, you know, probably another inch off that sort of top edge and see what that produces for you. I think, you know, when you kind of put your hand over it, it produces a slightly stronger image, in my opinion. But I'll give that 16, please. Right, this one's called Despair in Isolation, and you really get this guy's despair. And for me, looking at this just really tugged on my heartstrings. Yeah, you feel this guy's pain. I like that the image makes you feel like that, and it does reach you on an emotional level. I think that can be very hard to do in photography at times. The grain on it actually works. It suits the image well, because you've got sort of this grain in the denim and, you know, the detail in the forehead. It works. The only thing that I kind of would sort of say doesn't work is that back of this left hand and the edge of the other hand, the right hand, is just very bright. Instead of kind of looking at this guy's face and his despair, you are kind of pulled to this left hand in particular, and it's distracting what should be the focus on his face. But it's well done. It's a well done image. I'm going to give that 17, please. Right, this one is Mrs. Prim and Proper. And yeah, she just, yeah, she looks like you could get a good telling off from her, I think. The detail in the clothing is great. The whites have been handled really well. There's information there all the way through her clothing and her face, even down to sort of the jewellery that she's got on and the chains, you know, the medical chains and badges. There's information all the way through. So, you know, very well done for that. When you kind of take these sort of period shots, or you know, you like this. Just be a bit careful where you're putting people. And you know, there's the ivy itself is so busy. It really distracts from her, and you find that your eye is just going everywhere in this ivy. And because then you've just got a patch of like grid to the left, that kind of, your eye wants to settle there as well, because something's, you know, you can say something's not right, so your eye is pulled. So I would maybe even just sort of blur that background down a bit, and I would just clone out on her right arm. There's a little bit of white. I don't know whether it's her bow at the back where her apron's tied, or a bit of lace or something. It's just jutting out. I would just get rid of that, because again, it just pulls your eye. But yeah, it's been a very well caught subject, and yeah, it's 17, please. Okay, a bit of nature. Right, this is Chameleon. The lighting on this is beautiful. I don't know whether this is the author's pet, or whether it's been taken in a zoo, or you know, one of these animal days at various locations. But it's been very well done. The shadow on it is good. You know, the sort of the stomach area is a little blacked up, and sort of underneath that sort of front arm kind of going onto his chin. But it you know, it's one of those, it's gonna be, just because the light angle and his position. I like the little foot just sort of creeping and twisting round on the left hand side. That sort of beautiful curve in his tail, and how well that sort of edge has been lit up, allowing you to completely, almost like a circle, of this chameleon, sort of following his, you know, his head round all the way, continuing down to his tail and back up again. Yeah, the eye is lovely, and you just get a sense, he's definitely watching something. The only thing that I would just watch on this is the brightness of the stick that he's on, just the brightness of it going out the image on the right hand side. It could just do with dialing down a little bit, but the detail of it, the position, is cracking. So I'm going to give that 20, please. Right, this is called Enjoying the Snow, and she really is a beautiful little girl. Those eyes just pull you into that image, and in a way, you kind of don't need any of the information around her face. Just there's another image. If you sort of double click on this and zoom in, there is another image just in that square format of her face, and that thumb just in the corner. It's lovely. She's full of innocence, bless her. She really is, and I bet the parents are probably going, no, she's not. But she looks the face of innocence, and yeah, just in this adorable position. The kind of the only thing that really spoils the image for me, is there's something going on in this left hand corner, and I'm not too sure whether it looks like her arm coming down, out of the sleeve, but because it's kind of quite light in what is a shadowed corner, I would try and sort of tone it down a lot more than it is, because once you've seen it, it is quite distracting, and it's kind of, Yeah, I just wonder whether sort of blacking it out completely makes that for being a stronger image. I think it probably does. But as it stands, the images in the competition, I'm going to give that a 19, please. Okay, this is called Ellen Cregennan. I'm hoping for some thumbs up from the guys. Yeah, it's a lovely landscape. I like the sky, this kind of sweeping motion of this cloud. You know, almost makes it look like it's been done using a slow shutter. But when you kind of look at the water on the bottom, you can see all those ripples. It obviously hasn't been. So I'm assuming that is the natural sky that was there at the time you click that button. And it really is beautiful. This sort of motion, sense of motion from it. I kind of like the leading lines with the rocks, sort of from this bottom left corner, leading you to the water. But for me, it stops there. It doesn't lead you anywhere else in the picture. And then you kind of have to pick it up again with the next set of rocks, just take you a bit higher. And then you see the path or the road going up that mountain there. I like presumably it's a boat hut at the base over there on sort of just on the third. You've got a nice strong ripple edge in the water. So if I was fishing on that, I would want to be stood there and be targeting that kind of ripple edge with the hope of some good fish. The white rocks on the left aren't 100% pin sharp. That doesn't bother me. I kind of maybe they would be better toned down a little bit because they are in that corner. But yeah, overall, it's a pleasing image. I'd be interested to actually see that in colour, just to sort of see what time of year it is and what the colours are on that landscape. But yeah, 17, please. Okay, this image is called Turn of Speed. And like I said before, I generally don't do sport photography, but I have a good appreciation for it. And the detail in these two bikers is brilliant. His eyes, this front biker, his eyes, that determination on that direction he has to go. He's so focused. And you can see sort of all his artwork on the bike, and there's perfect movement in those wheels. You know he is moving. The dust and grit that's flying up and making the atmosphere, especially off that front wheel, has been captured really, really well. I would almost like to see a little bit of separation between the guy in the front and the guy coming up second behind him. It almost kind of looks like he's sort of, about to kind of ride over this guy's back wheel. Yeah, it's a very well done shot. I would like some more space on the left hand side though to see where this guy's travelling into, because at the moment he just, with the image and the crop he's got nowhere to go. It's a very, very tight crop on it. It is well caught. I'm going to give that 19, please. Yeah. This is a Landwin Island. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I've got a thumbs up. Okay, somebody has gone and taken some time with this image. And what my cat's doing. But the detail in it is gorgeous. The detail through that path all the way down to that lighthouse, the cross on that hill. Somebody has sat and waited for that sunset to be in this perfect position. The beautiful sky. You know, it is as it is. It's not a slow shutter on the sky by the looks of it. It's been very well captured, and this is kind of my sort of photography. I like going out, finding locations. Unfortunately, I'm nowhere near at the coast, but you know, I'm quite happy to sit and wait for this sort of perfect moment. The photographers nailed that. I really have no real issues with it. From what I'm seeing, there's maybe a couple of little white pebbles that are in the grass on the left hand side that I'd just use the heel tool and just get rid of them. But other than that, there's nothing really to fault with it. So I'm going to give that a 20, please. Right, I believe this is the last image in the first half, and we will be having a break after this. So, right, this one is called New Jersey Foyer. I kind of like doing photography with light work, and you'll see some of it on my website. But I like the idea. I love the positions of the light fittings and the angles that they're going at and this square. And it works really, really well. I like the pattern that it draws for you. But when you kind of do this sort of image, you need to just make sure that you are very, very square on. For when you're looking up. So what is this center main piece, really for me needs to be bang central with that light coming straight down through the middle. I kind of think what the photographer's done, he's gone, oh, that's too bright, stepped back slightly. And I think from the photographer's point of view, they like the small light, they like the leading lines in the light coming out onto the outside. But for me, I would prefer to see it a lot more central than how it is. But I have to obviously sort of go on what's presented. I really do love the patterning, but I just feel there's stronger images in it. So for me, that's a 16.
Right, Kylie, thank you very much for a great first half. Peter, have you got the scores? I hope all clubs agree. If you don't, message me. We're going to take a 10-minute break now. We'll be back at 10 to 4.
Welcome back, everyone. Right, this is Explaining the Magic of Concord. This, to me, as soon as I saw this, I hadn't seen the title, but it just reminded me of the film Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, because it just looks, the legs that they're sat by and the black layer across, it just looks like a bench, and these like little people are just sat underneath this bench, and then obviously sort of you see this big Concord nose. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously sort of in a museum somewhere, that sort of environment. It's sort of capturing a nice family day out, wherever this is. I just kind of find, although kind of the nose of the Concorde is sort of fairly crucial to the title. I just kind of find it just this big sort of triangular white space, and for me, it almost could sort of do with a slight crop on it, but if you hadn't sort of said that it was a Concorde, I probably wouldn't have really known what it is. So yeah, I think it's a nice record shot of a family day out. But I just think there's stronger images. So that one starts off with a 15, please. Right, this image is called Alive. And you know, some of the work I've tried, I've sort of done graffiti backgrounds and sort of had a model sort of write of the main graffiti, and you know, I kind of like the contrast in the person and then the painted graffiti person with the word alive on it. It does work for me having sort of this two half, but the problem that I've got with the model on the right, there's nothing really sharp about with the image. I think it's been taken at a reasonable distance and then cropped to get the area that you want. And really, sort of the only real bits that are sort of 100% sharp is just part of the forehead above the eyebrow and part of the lip. The earrings are out of focus, the cheek and the eyes are. And the eyes are so important that, you know, you need to feel that she is alive. So for me, it kind of just needs to be a sharper image on that right to make this work. But you know, if it's, you know, if it's your first effort at having a go at things like this, you know, keep going. You're nearly there with it, but just unfortunately, just with this image that you've presented, it's just not strong enough with what is around. But you know, it's a good idea. So I'm going to give that 15, please. Right, this one is called London Experience. And yeah, it kind of says a lot about British weather, doesn't it? And especially, I mean, I don't know whereabouts you guys are, but you know, it has been hammering it down today. I can hear on the window. The poor guy looks soaked. That bit of paper he's got on the top just isn't really cutting it, is it, for him? It's a nice grab shot. I like it. It shows how wet this is. The rain coming down has been incredibly well captured. I like the fact that the bus on the background has got golden tools. It's just, you know, it's not what is really this thing is promoting, is it? I think, you know, with the fact that it's called London Experience, I just really would like to have the rest of the word London on that bus. If you've got it, try and actually add it in, because I think, you know, if you're reading text in an image, it's so important to be able to see the full text or none at all. And I think if you've just got the rest of it, I think that would just kind of make that image just sing out. But you know, I like the position. He's over the doors. He's almost running for his life with this rain. So I'm going to give that 18, please. It's a good image. So well done. Okay, this one is Misty Day in Carmarthen. I've got that right, I'm hoping. Yay. I'm getting thumbs up from the crew. Yeah, I'm assuming this is by the same author as the image we had previously with the path and the leading lines, the slate tiles, or the slate fencing down the side, the tree and the building. in the previous version, the treatment I thought really suited the image, the grain, the sepia, making it look like this traditional old style image. But for this one, for me, I would rather say this is a colour. I don't think the treatment's 100% worked. And the grain is a little too much for me. The path is kind of your main area of the whole image. It's kind of so dominating. So you're constantly looking really at the middle of the image, which, you know, middle to left to bottom is just this wet path. And my eye just keeps getting stuck to that every time when I see it. But, you know, there's good detail in the image, and you know, yes, I like the path leading to the tree, but for me, it just doesn't quite work with what else is in this competition. So I'm going to give that a 14. Right, this image is called Keeping in Time. Now, I kind of like the concept of this. Whoever has managed to be able to take this picture, you've been in a very unusual position. My partner's in a band, and you know, I normally sort of get front on photos because it's a 5-piece band, and you want to see, you'll try and see the interaction between all of them when you're doing like the full band images at a venue. I think, you know, the interaction obviously is sort of with bass and drums, that they're providing the rhythm and the timing of the song. So it's kind of, the guy playing the double bass, he's got this nice sort of intense look at the drummer, but the drummer, I kind of don't really feel he's sort of responding much to him. He's kind of busy looking out more at the audience. Because of where you've stood, I think it would have been nicer if you'd have kind of moved around to the left and got a little bit more of the drummer's face in and a little bit more of the drum kit. That sort of bass drum is really sort of not showing enough for for the image, I don't think. And unfortunately, because of the position, it makes sort of this trumpet player on the far end look like he's kind of not playing with this band, that he's just sort of a little bit too isolated. But you know, the image is sharp, it's well lit. It's kind of this nice little snapshot of time for these guys. 15, please. Okay, this one is called Non La. It really is a beautiful portrait. The eyes are gorgeous. The eyes pull you into her, to whatever it is that she is thinking or feeling right at that moment. She doesn't look very happy to kind of be where she is, or sort of having this interaction with the photographer, whether that's kind of been your intention and your request for your model, is to have this sort of deadpan face. That's kind of up to you. But it's a nice portrait. I like the detail in the hat, the hair. Yeah, the position of the hands. This one hand on her right shoulder, well, her left, but for us, her right, has been very, very well positioned. It kind of looks delicate in the image. The other hand, not so, with it sort of being bunched up as a fist. It looks quite big compared to the other. And then she kind of seems to have almost sort of slightly unnaturally long arms. So I think for me, I would just kind of try the crop and get rid of this sort of bottom section and sort of crop up to really where the ringlets of hair start, and just see, just in sort of that, almost that sort of square format, if you've got a stronger image there. For me, I think you have. I would go back and have another look. It's just the image as a whole is more about the arms than it is about the face, and it should be the other way around, from sort of what my understanding of sort of studio work would be. It is a beautiful girl, and I really would kind of hope that you've got a lot more other images of her. Yeah, 16, please. Okay, this one's called Folding Paper. It's kind of quite a common sort of creative image. It's been well done. I like the tones through from sort of the dark to the light. The edges of those pages are highlighted well so that you can see those beautiful curves. I would kind of just, you kind of got all your edges darkened down except this bottom right corner for some reason. I would try and kind of match that up if you can. Yeah, you know, but for what it is, it's been well done. I just think there's images more that tell stories and are just a little bit stronger. But I'm going to give that 15 because it has been well handled. Okay, this image is called Spiral. I kind of love going around looking at different things that you can see that aren't always the ordinary shots that you would take. So this is kind of really sort of what I would enjoy. I like the fact that the positioning is sort of on this third, and you're kind of reading from left to right, this sort of grotty, grunge, cracked wall. And then you've got this sort of straight pole and lovely spiral going round. But then you've got the steps are kind of mirrored so differently, coming round on this right in the shadow. So it's been very well spotted and very well handled. I just sort of, I think there's just stronger images, but I am going to give that a 17 because I think it's been well seen and well photographed. Right, this is called Burness High Rise. And yeah, it is definitely very high. I'm almost going with the fact that this looks like an infrared image. Excuse me a second. Multiple cats trying to break into the room. Yeah, it kind of looks sort of like an infrared image with the fact that the sky is so black and the building is so white. The building's pin sharp all the way through. I like the jaunty angle. I think it's sort of very creative in, you know, you've seen something and chosen this sort of unusual point of view. I just sort of find the lamppost quite dominant as opposed to the buildings. And what I really don't like that pulls the eye is this lamppost label. I think they're normally yellow and black, but because it's so bright white against what else you've got, which is so well handled, the other colours, this sort of once you see it, just kind of sticks out like a sore thumb, and just kind of spoils that nice line of that lamppost. So I would be very, very inclined to get rid of that and make it this sort of mottled grey effect that matches the rest of this pole. But yeah, it's been very well spotted and well handled, but I'm going to give it a 16, I'm afraid. That white label is a little overpowering. Okay, this is Jason. Jason looks like a very sad guy. He looks like he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. You know, really beautiful portrait, detail in his face, his beard, his hair, his hand. Not too keen on the grain on his shirt, but you know, it's breaking the you know, stopping your eye from leaving his face. So, you know, I'm fine with that. As we've said before, you know, hands look better when they're positioned on the side. I'm not a fan of the frame, I'm afraid. A lot of judges will know you for frames like this. I don't nail people for frames because, you know, I've used them in the past, and if it works, it works. You know, it's one person's opinion on it, but I'm going to say for me that it's kind of just it doesn't really work. It competes with him too much. Sort of the wispiness of his hair in the middle of the forehead. It's just that frame is just taken away. I'm not too sure. Sort of then with the position of the hand, it's almost sort of pushed the side of his face up, and made his face look a little off balance. Whether that's been intentional or not, I'm not totally sure. You know, he may have a natural sort of tendency for that anyway, but I think if he hasn't, as a photographer, you just need to sort of be a bit mindful of moving the face with pressures of hands. So for that, I'm going to give it a 15, please. Okay, this one's called Idaho Trees. It's a beautiful, simplistic, sort of high-key image. I'm got, because it's so white, I've kind of got no idea where the image sort of starts and finishes. I presume that the image fills the screen. But yeah, I mean, I kind of almost feel that, you know, I've got this sort of sheep pen almost on the right hand side. My mind is kind of wanting to then look for the sheep that belong in this pen. Sorry about that. My partner's just brought me a nice warm cup of coffee. It's a complete waitress service. And yeah, I'm kind of looking around and I'm not seeing any sheep, but I like the sort of this line of trees leading you to this sort of empty pen, making you think and look. Yeah, it's been well done. There's no sort of degrading around the branch tips from the conversion. Yeah, I think that's been very well done. So I'm going to give it 18 because I think you could have maybe done a tighter letterbox crop on it and just enhanced that sort of elongated shape that you've got going across there. Okay, this one's called Little Humans. And yeah, the sort of everyone's sort of like little kids. It looks like a great place that's really entertaining, and I love the creative side that I do with sort of kaleidoscope images and embossed work, and this is just right up there for me. I love the detail and this metal work going round and round, and you can see it sort of carrying on up to this kind of what has been obviously a toned down highlight spot above this left child's head. Unfortunately, what stops it sort of getting high marks for me is you've got sort of these two sort of semicircle areas in sort of the top left of the image. I think you could have sort of carried on this pattern. It's a beautiful pattern, and actually maybe cloned those out as you've gone round. I kind of don't mind the cloning on the highlight above the left child's head. You've still got detail in the left child, it's great. I would have maybe, the right-hand child, I would have maybe just lifted his forehead slightly just to give a little bit more detail between his hands. But what concerns me is this middle child. There's obviously a child there. There's a set of feet, but we've kind of got a puff of cloud instead of a child. I don't know whether he's had a complete white outfit on and he just tried to get rid of it. But it just looks like a pair of feet and a sort of non-existent child. You either kind of needed to completely get rid of the feet as well and make us think you haven't sort of blown the kid up, or left the child in and sort of just toned it down. Then again, maybe it's a friend's child and you didn't have permission to show the child. I don't know, but I think the mistake there is you need to get rid of the feet. But for all that, I really like the pattern. It's been really well seen, and credit where it's due. I'm going to give that 19, please. Right, this one's called There's a Storm Brewing. Now, when we were sort of looking at this previous mountain picture, and I'd said about the white being not handled as well as it could be, and referring to a picture later on, this is the image that I'm referring to. You've got the white detail of snow, but even on the sort of face of the mountain on this left-hand face, there is still detail in that white. Although it is a bright white, it's been handled in such a way that information is there to view, whereas the other image was let down because it didn't. So this is what you need to kind of, the author of that image needs to be aiming for with snow detail. And normally you just get that by dropping a couple of exposure points, and that should give you the information. This one, it's a great image. It's a lovely mono conversion. You've got such a range of tones, from the blacks in the foreground and the mountain detail to the the bright white of that face. The cloud, I mean, that just it's called There's a Storm Brewing, and there certainly is. You do not want to be around when that is going to hit you. It looks pretty gnarly. Yeah, it details throughout. It's cracking. So that's a 20, please. Right, this one is called Cadaver. I've never seen a competition image where there is text in it at the bottom. So it puzzled me so much that I actually sought some advice on how to actually judge this, because I wasn't sure. I've just, as I say, never ever come across it in my time in camera clubs or competition work. I kind of feel with an image that if you have to put text on it to describe what you're trying to photograph, then there's something possibly not quite right with the story. The exquisite cadaver introduces umbrella to the sewing machine on a butcher's block. So, okay, yeah, great. We know what every element is in this image now because you told us. But it's kind of a bit of a strange combination of items. The sewing machine itself has got a lot of detail in it, but I'd really like to see the brand of it, the Singer, in focus. The umbrella's okay. It's kind of, you know, there's text on it. You can't read it. That's fine. The cadaver itself, when you actually look closely at it, isn't sharp. And the only bit that really is sort of part of the brain area and the eye. I kind of like the touch of the bow tie, you know, so the cadaver trying to have a bit of class with the bow tie put on. I'm not, I'm just not sure of what you're trying to tell me with the image. You know, is the cadaver introducing the umbrella in the sewing machine for making some clothes from the material of the umbrella? I don't know. You know, you can have all sorts of thought processes over it. It's just not doing it for me because I don't understand it. I don't understand what you were trying to show me other than what you said in text. You know, it's kind of, I think you've just done a couple of items and tried to do a still life with a set of items, which, you know, if that's what you're doing, that's great, and you've done that. But yeah, I'm sorry, author. I just don't get it. I'm struggling with it. I'm going to give that 14, please. Okay, this one's called The Pose. It's a good, strong pose. The lighting's nice on the body. You've got sort of this highlight down the side of the chest going down towards the stomach. There's nice shadows where the muscle tone is and highlights on the muscle in the right places. So you are showing that bulk is there and that strength. I don't mind that he's got his head down and no eye contact. There doesn't always need to be eye contact in poses. You know, it's still a strong image. There's detail in the hair, the ear. It's been well done. My complaint about it would be the crop. I think if you're going to do an image like this and you're showing all this sort of muscle and tone, you need the hands to be in the frame. And I think it's just a little bit careless that you've got this sort of knuckle of the one hand touching the border almost out. And then you've got the edge of the other hand, again, touching the border almost out. I think the bottom one actually is just taken, is just slithered off. If you've got the image, go back and just work on your crop slightly differently. I like the fact that it's a portrait position, you know, portrait presented image. But yeah, the crop is just not working for me. But I'll give that 17, please. Right, this is Mist over Lake Bala. I'd love to see this in autumn colours because I bet those trees are going to be beautiful. I like the lake, I like the reflections. The mist gives this sort of beautiful atmosphere to the lake at this point in time, whether it's early morning or just a generally foggy day. I would guess early morning. I kind of think you're sort of trying to tell me the story of this sort of boat on this misty lake, but that boat is very, very lost in this mist. Maybe you could have sort of gone in and just darkened it down a little bit so it's more prominent through that mist. I kind of like the line coming in, whether I don't know if it's like a launch ramp or something on the right. And the trees are very, very dark on this right-hand side, but they've been well handled. There's plenty of information in those tree details. We say sort of with images that, you know, we don't necessarily always like this sort of horizon line smack in the middle. But it's fine for this shot. It doesn't really bother me because you've got this sort of almost perfect mirroring going on, which fills the image. So you kind of you almost sort of need it to be in that position, in that middle. So, you know, in this occasion, it's kind of quite good to break the rule. But I just sort of think that, you know, it's a nice image of sort of the lake, the mist, the trees, but there's nothing else really going on for me. So I'm going to give that a 16, please. Right, this one's Will It Wash Again? I'm hoping he gets it back together right, or it ain't. But I can't. The detail in this image is great. You know, the brickwork, every little speck of detail is there. You know, in her path, the wall, the archway, his clothes, the drum. It's great. There's a couple of sort of highlight issues with the face of his watch being sort of quite bright and pulling your eye, and sort of the strip light in the that sort of front room there. It's kind of you know, it's telling me a story, which I like to see in images. You know, that there's obviously sort of something going on, whether she owns this washing machine or not, and he's panicking, or she's walking by and asking this question: is it going to work again? You know, there's a story present. It's just a shame that although she stood there and kind of there is this connection, that there's actually no visible interaction between the two of them. You know, she just because that shoulder's covering her mouth, there's just no visible interaction. She's just stood there, and for that reason, I'm going to give that an 18, please. It would have got a little bit higher if there had just been something going on there. Okay, this is Åsnösfjord. It's a beautiful landscape image. The letterbox crop works brilliantly with it. I love the cloud detail. The whites have been really well handled in this. There's, you know, detail all the way through this mountain on the left, the fjord, you can see the ripples. You know, this bottom left corner with it being bright with snow, it doesn't bother me because it blends perfectly with the rest of the image. And as you look round, then you've sort of got the other side of the fjord, the other mountains, and something sort of passing through there, whether that's the road, can't quite make it out. You've got some sort of black blocked up areas of the rocks and that going on, but it doesn't really sort of cause any issues. Having said all that and sort of sung the image's praises, and it is a beautiful image. I would be so proud to have this. But as a competition image, I find it almost too busy. My eye is just going round and round and round and round and round, and I've got nothing really to settle on in particular in it. Which I'd kind of like to have. You know, I want a specific place just to stop and admire, and there just isn't that. It's just very, very busy, but it is a beautiful image. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with 19 with that. Okay, this is called Deep in Thought. I almost kind of wonder if this guy's vicar with this sort of dog collar looking thing around his neck. I like the lighting of it. The lighting's kind of made his hands the focus, almost in this sort of prayer pose. You know, the position of the fingers and the four fingers sort of resting on his chin works well. I kind of find the image itself not very sharp. It's kind of not, I think, as it should be. I think, you know, if you're doing a studio portrait, you should have this sort of quality, the studio quality about it, which for some reason is lacking in this image. And that dog collar, if it is a dog collar, is very, very bright. Yeah, I'm going to give that 15, please. Okay, this image is called Grace. Beautiful little girl. You know, if it's for a mum, a mum's going to be really pleased with this photo. She's, you know, in a really nice position in the frame, sort of over to this one side. There's kind of something in the background, sort of, that's obviously diffused, and it is beautifully diffused. But there's just this sort of highlight in the background, just sort of just above the line of her eye, that it just sort of competes a little bit. So I would just go back and just sort of tone that little spot down, because it does compete. The brown and black of her eyes, they kind of blend in a little bit. I would just lighten the brown slightly. I mean, she's got a beautiful face, bless her. And you know, the brightness of the hair grip on the top right doesn't bother me. The nice catch lights, I assume it's natural lighting, caught in the eye there. But there's a bit of an area to the left, to the left of this left eye. I'm not sure what's been done, but there's kind of almost like a brushed highlight down the cheek, and it looks a bit darker sort of underneath the eye down the cheek. It almost looks like the author's kind of lightened up the cheek edge, and you can just make out this line. So yeah, I would just sort of go back and have another look at that. But you know, if I was sort of the parent of that, I'd be very happy with that image. So that's got 16, please. Right, this one's called Looking Through the Lens. This guy is just going to be a character. You just know it from the look of him. He's in this moment, isn't he, of whatever he's photographing. He's just in that zone. Beautiful detail through the face and the hair. Completely nailed it. The teeth aren't dominating in sort of whiteness. Yeah, it's been very well seen, very well caught. And yeah, his name is actually Guy, I've been told. Yeah, the blacks are black, but not too black. The only thing that he's a little pulling is there's a couple of highlights just to the back of his hairline, and then there's I don't know whether it's his wrist, his cuff, just above the lens hood, there's this sort of little white mark. But I'm really not going to penalise it for just those two things. It is a cracking shot. If you actually zoom in and make a letterbox image, if you crop it just below his watch, there is actually another image there as well, just a close up of him. But I'm going to give that 20. It is a cracking shot. Okay, this one is a homage to Brunei. Whoever has done this, fair play. I really cannot stand bugs and creepy crawlies of any kind, save the fact that you probably either put the camera on the floor or even laid down and got this shot. You're already winning in my book. You would not get me doing that. Yeah, it's very unusual, very well thought out. Lovely detail in all the ants. You can see, see so many of them are in focus. The ground works. There's nothing really sort of distracting you away from, what this is. The diagonal is lovely. I think if you'd have kind of done it as a horizontal, it just wouldn't have had the impact that it does. You can see the texture of the material that this sort of head is made from. And obviously you've got the texture of sort of the wood chip or ground that it's laid on. The background's been handled very well. There's nothing sort of screaming out at me that is pulling my distraction in any way. I just, having said all that, I just kind of think there's just a couple of twig ends that could have been toned down just here. Like I say, the standard's so high, I've got to be really picky, and I hate being this picky. But I just think there's a few stronger images. I'm going to give that 19, but well done for it, really well done. Right, this one's called Melancholy, and he certainly looks a little bit sad, doesn't he? It's been very well handled. I like the tones through it, the material and textures in that wood. The barn area behind has been handled well. It's nicely out of focus, so your eye is put on him straight away. He's in a nice position, sort of the hands are out the way. I don't mind the two little fingers just poking out, under his chin there, that's no problem. The catch lights in the eyes are nice and bright. Got a little highlight on the end of his nose that you could tone down a little bit, and that button just sort of under his hand there on his shirt could go down a little bit. The area that kind of pulls my eye the most, though, is the hat, because it's so busy, and because it's, and this is, I guess, sort of a double-edged sword with sharpness and quality, because it has been so well handled and the quality is there and the sharpness is there. It kind of just makes it compete with child's face as well. So I would almost sort of tone that down a little bit somehow, and just make the child's face the centre of attention. But I'm going to give it a 19 because it's been very well caught and seen, and it is a very nice image. Okay, this one is called Playmates. The image itself, the subject is beautiful. The position of them, the background is handled well. The quality of the image is questionable. I suspect I know what's gone wrong with it because I have a similar problem with my mobile phone. And I think this has been done using a mobile. And somebody, I think, has zoomed in using the phone. And as a result, if it's a Huawei phone, you do tend to have this loss in quality of the image. I've certainly found that with images I've been doing on there, and it's just unfortunate that it happens, and yeah, you do get this issue with the images. If it had been taken with, I say, a proper camera, it would have been such good quality, and the position, it would have been perfect. But as I say, you've got a serious quality issue because I think it's been done on Zoom with a mobile phone. And for that reason, I'm sorry, but it's going to get a 14. Right, this one's called Letting Off Steam. Yeah, it's whether it's been done at one of these sort of railway days or events that you can go to, or whether somebody's seen this travelling around the country and they know its schedule and they've gone and met it somewhere. I don't know. I like the detail of the tracks leading you from this corner to the train, and this embankment on the left, and obviously the track lever and the little trees. For me, it's just unfortunate. There is so much steam and smoke. You can't really see anything other than just the front end of this train, which is a shame. There's somebody in my club who loves doing these sorts of days, and he just waits that little bit longer just for that steam to clear slightly, just so that you've got information sort of in that cabin and just going further back. And I think just that's maybe what you needed to do, was just hang on just, a fraction of, or a couple of seconds, just to get some more detail in that image. It's just about timings. So go back, have another go, and see what you can come up with. So 16, please. Yeah, this one's called Sorrow, and it's a lovely image. You kind of wonder what she's upset about, what she's done wrong, what she's thinking, how she's feeling. And she's obviously upset because she's got a tear, but what's the story? Why is she this upset? Why is she sorrowful? Lovely use of sort of the candle to create, or the flame on the candle to create catchlight in the eye. Lovely that you kind of managed to get this tear. I don't know what you said to your child to kind of make her upset and sort of get that tear. But yeah, it's a really nice sort of project of natural lighting, and yeah, it's nice. It's a nice image. There's good detail in the face. Focus is good. So I'll give that 17, please. Right, this image is called Watching. The image I find a little confusing because I kind of struggle with what the setup's meant to be, whether this sort of people on the steps are kind of meant to be lovers and she's watching out of jealousy, or whether this is a boyfriend off with another girl or what. I mean, the models are two females from what I can see when I've looked more closely. It kind of, the story, I don't know, the story kind of doesn't completely come across because it just leaves me with questions. There's a lot of black in there that is completely blocked up on this sort of left-hand side, and you know, in the girl's trousers who sat on the step, and the shadow in this sort of staircase area in this corner. Yeah, I think it's nicely lit. The areas that are lit have got detail. I'm going to give that 15, please. Okay, this one is called In My Chair. Kind of, when you're kind of naming images, just be a bit careful because she's not in her chair, she's inside somewhere, and her chair is kind of empty, sat outside the property. But I like the contrast of sort of she's inside, this is outside. It took me a couple of looks to realise that actually, no, this isn't wooden flooring and she's not actually the other way around. This is outside. This flooring is cobble and lovely sort of gritty, grungy cobble at that. Nice detail in the chair. Obviously the necks are pin sharp. Her face, you know, there's kind of this expression there. It's like she's kind of putting a bit of a smile on. She's kind of, to me, it looks a bit fake, like she is actually quite sad. But yeah, for me, it's kind of the title like clashes with the image, and you know, titles do make images, and that just doesn't work. So I'm gonna give that 16, please. Yeah, this is called The Game's Up. You know, it's a fairly sort of straightforward background. It has been well handled. I like the building through the glass and, you know, the bit of crack in the glass. The window frame, although there's light on it in the middle, has still got detail and has been well handled. You know, there's detail all round in that wall. But his character, if he hadn't have been making this expression, this image would not be anywhere near worth what it's going to get. He reminds me of there's an actor called David Tomlinson. He was in one of the Herbie films years ago. Just his clothing, his expression, his moustache, everything just reminds me of this guy. I kind of really like the shadow on the face that the moustache is casting, the whites of the eyes, the catchlight, that expression to me is just priceless, to have just caught that moment. Lovely detail in the hat and the jacket, but for me, it's all about that expression. That's what's made the image. So that for me is a 20, please. Right. Whether this is kind of, it's a similar image to the tree high key image that we saw earlier. So I'm almost wondering if it's kind of by the same author. It works really well. I like sort of the silhouettes and then sort of the reflections of that. I'm hoping it's sort of natural reflections and it is sort of water and it hasn't just been, I don't think it's been flipped because I can't see the mountain. in the water below, but I'm hoping it's not a flip, that it is a genuine. I think it is. I like to think it is. Yeah, there's nice separation between most of the people. You can tell the ones that are couples or in a family. Yeah, I like, there's different activities going on there with sort of people cycling and bits and pieces. So yeah, it's a nice sort of capture of time in this nice place. Personally, like I said with the trees, I kind of letterbox it. I think I know that it's nice having the minimalistic feel and sort of this empty space, top and bottom, but I think unlike that lake image, you don't need to have that sort of perfect centre horizon in such a big, vast space. Yeah, 17 plays. I like the effort on that. Sorry, that one was West Kirby Reflections, by the way. I didn't give the title. This one's called The Potter. Yeah, it's an unusual. Oh, cat, go away. Oh, jump on my laptop. Sorry about that. It's an unusual sort of capture. You don't often see images like this of pottery. It's been very well done. The action is there, this sort of spin on the clay, on the table. It's nice that you've kind of not got stuff flying everywhere and hitting your lens. So nice one for that. But you know, the intention's there to add more to this sort of thing that you're making, whatever it is, and the tools there to show how it's done. Yeah, it's nice. It's nicely caught, nice action shot. Although you know it's minimal action, but it's still an action shot. Those highlights on the pot have been well handled. I'd kind of like to see the rest of this wheel at the bottom, but you know maybe there's something down here that you don't want to show me. But yeah, 19 I think, please. Right, this image is called The Big Boys, and yeah, they certainly is. I would not want to make any of these in part of a rugby tackle because you're going to get hurt. Really good detail throughout this. I love the guy like pulling onto the vest of this one in the middle, just in the hope that, yeah, I can stop him. Yeah, no, you're not gonna. The poles kind of coming out the guy in the middle's head. I know it's kind of one of these, you never want poles or trees coming out of people's heads, but in this instance, it's sort of, it's part of the environment. You know, it's going to be that sort of, probably that H frame for the rugby, I'm guessing. So, you know, it is part of what's there, so I'm not bothered by it. It's just a shame that you've kind of not got his left, the guy on the left, his foot in. I'd kind of like to see all of that in. I'd probably just tone down a couple of the white sort of little strokes between that guy as well and the rest of the group. But the blacks are a little bit blocked up, but you know, it's not a major issue. So yeah, I just think it's a shame that left leg's out, but you know, I kind of got to be a bit harsh, so I'm going to give it 18, please. Okay, this one's called Albion Rovers 1 Arbroath, so presumably it's one each. Yeah, I mean, it's a really sweet shot. I could imagine if my dad had been interested in football as a kid, I could imagine this is what he'd do. He'd go and find the wall and hang on and watch the match. I think it's, you know, a lovely sort of capture that he's probably gone quite common through generations of football fans. There's a bit of an issue going on with the sky. You know, there's been a bit of dodging and burning going on, and obviously it's a really bright day. So you've lost a lot. You know, maybe you could sort of crop most of it down and out. I know you're going to kind of risk losing the floodlights on that stand, but you know, maybe if it's not adding anything to the image, maybe it could go. I like the tones through the pitch. I mean, you're seeing all the players very detailed. Excuse me a minute. I'm just going to get rid of this cat because she's starting to be a pain. No, out. Right, she gets a bit demanding after time. Sorry about that. Yeah, there's lovely detail in this brickwork. There's a little bit of rubbish at the bottom and sort of debris that I'd get rid of just because it's sort of quite bright and distracting. But yeah, it's kind of a nice sort of snapshot of time that I'm sure, you know, their dads have done it. But yeah, it's got quite a few issues, so I'll give that 16, please. Right, this one's called Mist Interferes with Surfing. And yeah, you can see you're not going to see anything out there on that day. When you actually go into this, there's actually 4 surfers there and not 3. And that sort of middle guy, you can just see the 4th person's or 3rd person's head just sort of poking out over him. Because you've got this sort of such very close overlapping with people, I would almost go in and sort of just clone him out because it's doable, and just sort of get rid of him really, because you know you've got the 3 people there, and that are mostly the visible ones, and that's the strength is this 3. So I would just tidy that up a little bit. You know, the Pebble Beach is nice. There's nice detail through there. You know, they're nicely positioned in the frame. They've got this sort of space to walk into. You've got the detail in this sort of rocky coast going on. You know, presumably it's a bay going on around there. It's just sort of a little bit grainy in your conversion. I don't know whether that's intentional or not. I'm not 100% sure, but I think, you know, it's a nice image, but I think there are just stronger ones. Did I give a score or not? The 15 for that one. Is that what's holding me up? Right. Yeah. Okay, this one's called May Queen, and she is a lovely, lovely looking lady. And the headdress has got beautiful detail in it, and the whites of those flowers are, you know, the information is there. There's a couple of little distracting points. The bead sort of just sticking out on the left, I would just get rid of that because it's just kind of sticking out on its own, and just sort of tidy that up a little bit. Yeah, I mean, the headdress really suits her. Nice catchlight in the eye, and the eyes, you know, you've got this sort of nice separation between sort of the dark pupil and the colour of the iris going on there. There's a couple of things that let the image down for me. I'm kind of not entirely sure that the pose is particularly flattering for the girl. I think, you know, this sort of lifted shoulder and craned sort of neck almost looks a little bit forced and unnatural, and it just makes her look awkward. and uncomfortable. And I'm just not so keen on sort of this pursed lip with this little gap. It may work better if kind of the shoulder's not in such an awkward position. So I'd just go back and just, you know, maybe rethink the shoulder pose a little bit. So I'll give that a 15, please. Okay, this one's called Replica St. Mark's. I've got no idea where it is, and I am not really bothered. I like the idea that somebody has tried to do something very, very different with this sort of image, whether it's a holiday shot, I've got no idea. But it's made a very interesting sort of almost sort of 3D without the 3D glasses kind of effect. And you know, I love effects and filters, trying different methods out on images. You know, some of the old school judges might not like it, and might not get it, but you know, I really do. I think it's something different, and I think, you know, it's brave to try that and put that into a competition. The only thing that does really bother me is you just don't really have a fixed place to look in it. Your eyes are just all over the place with it. But that's it. I mean, there's great detail all the way through. So I'll give that an 18, please. Okay, this one's with room to spare. Yeah, she's got a good position and a good pose on it, which, you know, it's going to be natural for what she's doing. The photographer's done well to catch that specific time. The background is well handled. Her expression is brilliant. She just says, "Well, have I missed it? Well, oh, yeah, I'm over." I don't think you need a tighter crop on this image. I think how you cropped it is perfect, because with it you really appreciate the length of this pole and the height of this jump that she's having to do. And I don't mind the white of the bar going across. It's part of the scene, it's the story. So I think it's very well spotted, well, not spotted, but it has been intentional. You know, it's very well caught and timed. So I'll give that a 19, please. Okay, this one's called Oxford Girl. It's a lovely location and lovely detail in sort of the stonework and the gate, and the building behind her. You've got the cycles parked up. The shadow works really well of her walking through, and the shadow in the wrought iron semicircle at the top of the archway all sort of adds to this bright light area from through the door. Unfortunately, she's just very blocked up. There's no detail in her clothing really, other than sort of just a bit on her leg. And I'd like to kind of see a little bit more about what, you know, what the clothing styles are, and, you know, whether it's sort of a top and a skirt, or whether it's a long jacket, or, you know, it's just lacking in that little bit of information just to help the image along. So I'll give that a 17, please. Right, this one's called Owl, and he's absolutely gorgeous. Whether he's been photographed on one of these sorts of bird of prey setup days, I don't know. Whether you come across him naturally, and I mean, he does look really, really angry at you. You're obviously disturbing his little home. Everything is pin sharp in that image. The bird, the eyes, the wood. I like kind of this like radial effect that the wood's giving from that hole all the way out to the edges. yeah, it's a lovely shot. I'm going to give that 20, please. Okay, this is called Nestled in the Mountain Lee. It's a very, very isolated lifestyle out there in places like this. And hats off to anybody thing. I think, you know, everybody's been feeling a little bit like the homeowners of this place just lately with current situations. But yeah, it's been well handled. The white of the house, although it's white, it's not, you know, completely burnt out. You've got a really nice sort of range of tones going through to, you know, the black darkness of the bottom of those rocks there, that mountain. I like the leading line of the wall going through on that road, taking you round to the house. What I assume those little white dots are a ton of sheep on that sort of hill there. Yeah, it's a pleasing image of its location. I just think there's probably stronger images, so I'm going to give that a 16. Right, this one's called Gotcha, and yeah, she's trying to get you into with this camera. I almost kind of get a retro feel about this shot because of the age of the camera. You know, the nail polish, although it's modern, it kind of fits with sort of this. I get a 60s feel about this shot, and the jewelry is kind of, you know, is non-time specific in it. I like the brightness of the eye. I think you need to have that level of brightness there because everything else is so dark. Lovely detail in the hair and sort of the creases on the fingers. The hand position works well. And yeah, I think it's been very well done. I give it 18, please. Okay, this one's called Old Seafarer, and yeah, he's what it says on the label. I love the detail in the beard and in the hat. There's the nicely diffused background. The jacket that he's in kind of works with the hat. There's nice detail in the hat as well. You know, you could have cloned out a couple of these little, I don't know what they are, but these little sort of light line specks. I'm not kind of sure completely what weather conditions this has been taken in, whether it's been sort of quite a bright day, but you know, he's got a very, very white nose and very, very white sort of cheeks going on. But it's his eyes that there is something hasn't quite worked in your processing. The eyes, although they're nice and bright, it doesn't suit the image because, you know, this guy just isn't naturally going to have eyes that are that white. And I just feel that I think as a photographer, you need to kind of know your character of the person and make sure that that element is working for him. And for me, it just kind of doesn't work for him, I'm afraid. So I'm going to give that 15. Okay, this is Scaethus Town. I'm assuming it's well, the shop banner or the restaurant banner says Mediterraneo, so it's somewhere in the Med. Yeah, it's a nice holiday image. Well handled. The whites and the lights have been done very well. The cobble is nice. Yeah. Your eye kind of happily wanders through the image, sort of down the path and round, and you know, you wonder what's sort of going off to the left or right when you go down that hill. it just would be nice to just have a little bit of activity sort of happening in the image to just sort of give it more of a story. But like I say, the whites have been well handled. The lights are good, and it's got a good detail. But I think there's just stronger. So I'm going to give that 16, please. Right, this one's called Young Beauty, and she is a very, very pretty girl. The sort of the background of her netting on the dress works well. I'm not 100% in love with this sort of black third versus white third of the image background. I don't know. It doesn't really work for me. I'm not too sure. Maybe you're trying to hide something on that side. I'm not sure. I get that she's maybe lying on the floor. Skin tones are really nice. The eyes are lovely and bright. You know, the one that's in the shadow, he's been edited really well to kind of balance. It's not overdone. Lighting's nice. The position of the hands, I'm really struggling with, because for me, it almost looks like somebody from underneath is trying to grab her shoulder and pull her down into this sort of other world. I just sort of think it's not a very flattering arm pose for her. It doesn't really work. So I think that's 16, please. Right, this one is Carrag, Kennan and Fans, it says. Not too sure what the fans are. But yeah, it's a nice landscape image. I like the cloud formation, sort of giving you this extra layer. The image has been built up in layers. You can see you've got the foreground treetops, the fields, then you kind of got this next layer of trees, and then the rock that the castle is on at the top. And yeah, it's a very pleasing image. I like the light patterns on the fields. Obviously, it's matching the cloud coming through. Beautiful detail throughout. You know, everything's sort of sharp where it should be. Yeah. I'll give that 19, please.
Kylie.
Yep.
The Carmarthen Vans are an area of mountains in Carmarthenshire.
Oh, okay, thank you. Right, this one's called Dawn Fisherman. I used to do fishing with my dad many years ago, and I'd like to get back into it again. I really would, but it's just a time factor. It's a beautiful scene. I love kind of the feel of this early morning, the mist. You know, you're going out in your waders into probably quite cold water. You've got the detail of the line curving round, you know, really nice, perfect positioning of it. For me, you've got this kind of lump of, let me just move my screen a little bit. This sort of lump of a kind of tree or a bush on the right-hand side, which kind of just looks like it's floating into view and doesn't look particularly grounded in any way. I think if you could kind of change your position slightly and just show that we've got a bank on this right-hand side, as opposed to what looks like a massive lake, it might have just given it just this little bit of, you know, sort of holding the image in to the right-hand side and just giving it a little bit of grounding. But you know, it's a really nice image. It's been well seen, well caught, and I like the silhouette. Just a few images that are stronger. 17, please. Right, this one's called Up Close and Personal, and yeah, you are pretty up close and personal. It's, I believe, has been taken with a mobile phone again, because it's just on the centre of the nose, the bridge of the nose on this. It's almost got that same sort of degrading quality on the pixels there. But unlike the otter image, it doesn't actually get in the way of what you're seeing. And this is really a lovely sort of portrait capture of this sheep. I like the detail in the nose and the muzzle. You know, you can identify every single strand of hair there. And, you know, the fleece is nice, and the diffused background, the ears. It really is a lovely image. Yeah, I'm going to give that 19, please. Right, and I believe this is the final image for today, and this is called Twisted Beaches. I love going out into my local park and taking images very similar to this. I love trees. Again, this is right up my street for just, you know, sort of day-to-day images that I would turn round. I like the tree shapes. I like the fact that you've sort of got this one in the foreground, sort of leaning, and then you kind of got the straight one behind, and the angles coming out from that. It's obviously sort of winter time, and you've got this sort of dusting with snow just to sort of give this white and black element of the trees and bits of ground that are poking through. And yeah, it's a nice image. The whites have been handled well. You can see the detail in the snow. Even on this sort of one on the front, you can see sort of the speckling of the snow. The trees obviously are very dominant in this image, but there's sort of nothing else really going on. Just these two trees really, that the sort of the story is about, but there's not really much of a story going on other than it's just snowed on these trees. It kind of needs some sort of leading line to sort of take your eye through, and it's lacking a little bit in that. You know, it just needs something to sort of pull these two trees together to you know, to make a story. So it's just not two trees. So yeah, that's going to be 14 for me, please.
All right, Peter. Right, we've got the scores up. You can see the top 5 clubs. We've got 2 clubs drawing on 75 points. We have a rule from the first battle of coming monochrome, only mono. The club with the most 20s wins, and that goes to Rhondda Camera Club with 2 20s to Monmouth's 1. So we congratulate Rhondda with 75 points as today's winners. All right. Put the highly commendeds up.
Yeah, okay, so this is in no particular order. There's basically, there were, out of the 20s, there was not really a lot to kind of split between. Yeah, sorry. Cool, thank you. Right, so okay, you should be able to sort of see the images now that have all had 20 points, and it's not an easy task to split these out. And believe me, it comes down to very fine detail, and you know, congratulations to everyone that's had 20 points. It's been a tough competition, and you know, hats off to all the images. You know, you're kind of all winners really for me in this group. But unfortunately, I've got to split you out a little bit. So, highly commended are coming up first. So, my first highly commended goes to There's a Storm Brewing.
And that's Mal Durbin of the Rhondda Camera Club.
Okay, my next highly commended goes to The Game's Up.
That's James Gibson.
Well, we can't go that quick. The Game's Up.
That's by James Gibson, Huddersfield.
Yeah, it's a cracking expression, so well done. Okay, the next one is Looking Through the Lens.
And that's by Gareth Evans Kidwelly. And the photographer probably watching today is Guy Butler Martin, who's in the shot.
Yeah. Okay, so the next highly commended is In Reflective Thought.
That's David Hopes of Bridgend Camera Club.
Okay, and the next highly commended is Chameleon.
Sue Anslaw, Cumbran.
Okay, the next highly commended, yeah, it pains me, this one, because I love this image, but it's Deep Soul
by Dave Brassey of Gwent Camera Club.
And the final highly commended goes to My Wrists Have Gone.
That's David Norton, Rhondda.
Right, so third place goes to Llandwyn Island.
Keith Sharples, Monmouth Camera Club.
You know, well done for sitting and waiting for that perfect moment on that. Right, second place goes to Owl.
Chris Chinnack, Cardiff.
Yeah, it's a lovely. I don't know whether to say, I don't know whether it's natural or on a setup, but yeah, very well done. And that leaves first place with Pip.
And Pip is Paul Campbell of Huddersfield.
It is a seriously strong image, that, and yeah, I am very, very jealous. I would love to have that in my portfolio.
Right, thank you, Kylie. We've had a great afternoon. Yes, last night, myself, Kylie and Peter Thomas had a meeting to discuss today. Kylie said, oh, I'm going through the images 30 seconds at a time. Well, she hasn't. She's done a real thorough critique on every image. So thank you. I now pass you over to Peter Young to close the battle.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Peter Young, and just to show, I'm the president of the Welsh Photographic Federation. I'm also on the committee of Cymru Monochrome, so if in this I get we's and you's and us and ours mixed up, then please forgive me. It's been a great afternoon, as Gareth has said, and it's been absolutely super. Congratulations, of course, to Rhondda and Monmouth, first and second, Cardiff, and all the others. Absolutely super. Kylie, it has been absolutely wonderful. First of all, can I offer my personal congratulations to you for being elevated to your EFIAP from AFIAP.
Thank you very
much. We felt for you with regard to the cat. You handled the cat very well, and I'm also a Brummie, so I have absolute sympathy with you for the Welsh names. The first time that I judged down in Wales, like you, I had to read out all the titles, and about 5 pictures in, I had to hold up my hands and say, look, I'm sorry, I'm an Englishman, and this title has nothing in it that I consider to be a vowel. Kylie, you've talked a lot about technique. But when you have talked about technique, it's been aimed at enhancing the story or the emotion. Occasionally, you've criticized the technique, but you've said that's fine because it doesn't get in the way of the story or the emotion. And you're absolutely right. It's the picture that matters, not all the individual technical matters that are in there. You've looked at 96 photographs. You have, as Gareth has already said an awful lot. Everything had something interesting and instructive to be said about it, and you certainly did. So, Kylie Ann Martin, EFIAP, BPE 2-star, LDPS, thank you very, very much indeed for all that you've done for Cymru Monochrome and indeed for Welsh photography.
Thank you.
I'd like to add thanks to Port Talbot Camera Club for hosting the meeting, and particularly to Peter Thomas, who has not been without issues this afternoon when his own internet went down, and we had a hiatus. I hope that didn't spoil your enjoyment. Gareth Martin says that he will be sending out the winner, the score sheets and all the details in due course. So don't hassle him. Give him 2 minutes at least. Gareth has been supported by the Cymru Monochrome Committee, and I thank them for that, and also to the 24 clubs who sent in some work. Gareth did get a bit of stick. I shouldn't admonish some of you, but Gareth did get a bit of stick from some of the clubs who originally didn't make the cut. And I know that there was one stage where he thought that he was going to throw it all in and forget about it. But I'm glad that he stuck in there, and thank you very much indeed, Gareth. Without you, this just would not have happened. It was your idea in the first place. Regrettably, we couldn't do it with prints as we always planned to do, but coronavirus got in the way. So thanks very much to Gareth. And finally, can I just say goodbye to everyone? Thank you very much indeed. And Peter will close the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. All right, Peter.